All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome back for our very last session of Pathfinder, Trekking to College. Thank you for tuning into this session brought to you by LIMS Review Center, the Prison Review Philippines, AUGA Philippines, and AECC Philippines. Your live keynote talks, more to explore, will close out the conference and hopefully provide the participants with perspective paths to take after college abroad. Our speaker will talk about her application experience, college life, life after college, and her overall study abroad journey. So please allow me to introduce our very exciting keynote speaker, Mikaela Reyes. She is the co-founder and CEO of Parallax, helping freelancers and international remote workers get paid from abroad faster and with significantly lower fees. They're venture-backed and have raised $4.5 million in funding. Previously, she was a product manager at LinkedIn and Ripcord and was one of the earliest hires at MedGrocer and Kumu, accelerating their path to product market fit. She loves giving back to Filipinos in tech and hopes to continue to do so. She studied economics and psychology with a data minor at Wesleyan University. Please help me welcome Mikaela Reyes.
Hey everyone, thank you to the camp folks for letting me be here. I'm very excited to share more. Let me share my screen so there's a little bit of a visual while I'm giving the keynote speech. All right, everyone see my screen? Okay. All right. So I have a little bit of a speech prepared, and as mentioned, I'm talking about study abroad experience, my reflections, my aha moments for picking my path in my career, a bit about my background and choosing the world of tech and where I am today. Hopefully the experience teaches two particular takeaways. Here we are. I'm going to call this Opportunity Redefined. And just to reintroduce myself again, good morning, afternoon, everyone. I'm Mikaela Reyes. I'm an economics and psychology major with a data minor graduate from Wesleyan University. And now I'm a founder of my own startup, Parallax. Very thrilled to stand before you all today in this virtual platform sponsored by Zoom. This really throws me back to my camp days. So I was in, I want to say, the first ever cohort of camp. And my camp mentor was Michi Ferriol, who is one of the original founders of camp. So this moment and this particular speech and this keynote brings everything full circle. No exaggeration, but camp actually changed my life. So I vividly remember one of the camp ice cream socials in BGC in this ice cream place called Bar Dolce. What I thought was going to be an innocent day of me devouring coffee-flavored ice cream turned out to be a life-changing event because I met one of the camp mentors, Mariana. And so Mariana in this event was talking about her full ride scholarship to her school, Wesleyan University. When I was talking to her, I said, "Oh, I know Wesleyan University. That's where Ted Mosby, Lily, and Marshall went to from How I Met Your Mother." By the way, it turns out that that's where the How I Met Your Mother producers went for college. And fun fact, Wesleyan is also where Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton or Michael White, the producer of White Lotus, went for school. Some fun facts about my school, which I'm very, very proud of. But anyway, we are getting ahead of ourselves. So going back in this ice cream social, Mariana raved about Wesleyan and how amazing it was, and how she had this amazing, prestigious Freeman Asian scholarship given to one person in the Philippines and then 10 others from the rest of the Southeast Asian countries. The day after I met Mariana, I wrote my application to Wesleyan. I mean, I loved How I Met Your Mother so much, so how could I not? Turns out I did end up getting that Freeman Asian scholarship a couple months after. So here's me with my fellow scholars. The way that I learned about my getting the scholarship was a pretty interesting story. So one day in summer, I woke up to a really big fat envelope from Wesleyan University and saw that I was the representative to the Philippines for the scholarship. I cried the moment that I saw it, not tears of joy. I was actually really sad to receive it. I knew that I had to take the scholarship, but I was also really scared to leave my family and my friends and everything that was familiar to me behind and go to such a foreign place. It also didn't help that I had a boyfriend at the time in the Philippines. So, long distance, kind of hard. But before I go deeper into this, pre-college experience, let me rewind a bit. This particular experience and feeling for me was actually very similar to a decision I had to make 4 years prior to receiving this envelope from Wesleyan. I'm going to talk about my high school. So for high school, I had the fantastic opportunity to enter one of the most prestigious, not to mention one of the most nerdiest high schools in the Philippines. I was one of the 240 scholars at Philippine Science High School, also known as PSI. PSI logo. And so like my college acceptance, I knew that passing the PSI entrance exam meant that I had to go to that school because it was such a great opportunity. And I knew I had to take this opportunity. Challenge yourself is a mantra that my dad always reminded me of. So I enrolled PSI, and honestly, for the first quarter or so, I was extremely miserable. I failed my first ever test in my very first quarter. I missed my friends from my old school so much, and I was still getting used to having boys as classmates. But eventually, the good outweighed the bad. Here I am on campus with some of my friends, with my parents during one of our graduation events, and down here doing some weird thing with my friends at school. The PSI taught me the importance and vast difference that hard work merits, which funnily manifested, for example, during college application time. So in most schools, when someone passes the UPCAT, they are celebrities because they receive the pride and honor for passing the very challenging UPCAT. In PSI, we have a 95% UPCAT passing rate. So the 5% who did not pass were the infamous celebrities. To me, that showed how PSI taught us to work really hard and how those difficult days in school really paid off, at least for the 95% of us. PSI taught me my first lessons in privilege and opportunity as well. I had best friends who had to cross rivers to attend their elementary schools or read books by candlelight, a contrast to the cars that I took or the lights that I could switch on anytime. I had massive privilege and opportunity, and also learned the responsibility to use this privilege to give back somehow. 4 years in, PSI became my home, and I was so glad I took that opportunity, even if it was super scary at first when I did. All right, fast forward back to that fateful summer day when I got the Wesleyan acceptance letter envelope. I asked myself, do I think I'd feel the same feeling of happiness and home like I did in PSI if I entered in Wesleyan and studied abroad versus if I stayed in the Philippines? The answer at the time was, I don't know. I can't predict the future. But what I do know is that I felt that I had to take this opportunity because it'd be opening so many more possibilities for me, and I'd likely regret it if I didn't. So while hesitantly, I enrolled in Wesleyan and started my journey studying abroad. And just like my time at PSI, I was miserable, not just for the quarter, but for an entire year. Imagine being all by myself at 18 in a foreign land, no family members nearby, learning about how Americans worked and adjusting to college from high school. I was constantly calling home and really wanting to go back, very homesick. I didn't understand the references people were making when they talked about football. And I felt extremely lost in a sea of other probably equally lost freshmen. But similarly to PSI, I found my tribe, I found home, and it turned out to be some of the best years of my life. I studied abroad in Denmark and visited 10 plus countries in a quarter. Here's me on some of my trips. I took classes where we literally watched Harry Potter and Disney classics as homework so we could critically think about their philosophies and psychoanalyze the movies after. I made the best friends from Korea, Thailand, Texas, Denmark, India, everywhere, all over the world, broadening my perspectives and my sense of self. It was also during college that I realized I wanted to work in tech. Surprisingly, it was not while I was living in America that I realized this, but actually during an internship when I went back to the Philippines for the summer. I worked at a health tech enabled company called MedGrocer and knew I wanted to be in tech after that experience because I saw how I could make a huge impact to the Philippines and Filipinos and other folks in emerging markets with a push of a button at scale. I think it was the fact that I lived abroad and lived in the Philippines that it opened my eyes to the differences in privilege and access to opportunities in both countries. It was like my friend and myself say, we're all born into different social classes and geographical locations that dictate much of our lives and our opportunities. There are only a few people who realize this opportunity to give back. And I felt that opportunity and responsibility to at least try to give back to the Philippines and thought I could best do that in the tech industry. There are also only a few people who both realize that they can give back and choose to give back. And to this day, I like to think that I continue to choose to do so. And I hope that if you decide to study abroad, that you choose to do so as well. Graduating from a college abroad was a huge opportunity that, with a healthy mix of hustle and luck, afforded me even more opportunities after graduating that I never thought possible. It would have definitely been a different story if I didn't study abroad. So I had the opportunity to become a product manager in tech very early in my career for a robotics startup called Ripcord. I had the opportunity to work in Silicon Valley, the prestigious Kleiner Perkins or KPCP fellowship. I had the opportunity to work in the early team at Kumu while they were searching for a leader in product and help them find product market fit while they were still based in America. I had the opportunity to work as one of the youngest product managers at LinkedIn, a role I never thought would be possible. And today, I have the fortunate opportunity and privilege to start my own company and be my own boss as the founder of a venture-backed startup called Parallax. Quick plug, check us out at withparallax.com. But these days, my definition of opportunity has changed. So while in college and while building my career, opportunity meant getting the new prestigious product manager role or working in the hottest hotspot in tech in Silicon Valley, or getting promoted to the next role and the next role and the next role, or working for amazing startups like Kumu or great companies like LinkedIn. These days, opportunity means something a little bit different. It sometimes equates to the responsibility to make an impact. I feel there are so many more opportunities to make an impact in the Philippines, in emerging markets, versus solving hashtag first world problems. I feel there are more opportunities to apply the basically free education and scholarships I was offered and the career that I've built and the opportunities that I was given to now give back to my home country. With Parallax, for example, I have the opportunity to help Filipinos get paid their money's worth and open up their opportunities for financial access. At some point, I realized that the opportunities to get to the next career rung don't matter as much if the opportunity to make an impact to my home country is more explosive and meaningful. Right? Now that I have said the word opportunity 100 times now, I want to take this last opportunity to leave you with the two main takeaways. The first is to challenge yourself and go for it, as my dad says. Take the opportunities you can take because they lead to further opportunities that compound over time. A clear one, and the topic of this whole conference is maybe really trying and considering studying abroad. You'll know there are big opportunities when they're a little bit out of your comfort zone and when you're a little bit scared, just like I was. Studying abroad might be tough at first, but those are sometimes the best opportunities worth taking. Second is to consider bringing those opportunities back home. Remember where you came from, stay grounded in your roots, and recall why you might be taking these opportunities and working hard in the first place. And hopefully you take the opportunity and carry the responsibility to try to make an impact back home and give back, whether that's through coming full circle by giving a speech to high school students in the Philippines, or starting a company that impacts Filipinos, or saving lives as a doctor, defending Filipinos as a lawyer, bringing pride and joy to the country as an athlete. I hope you eventually find a way home. Thank you so much, Cam, for having me here. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yay, so perfect. So thank you so much for sharing more about your story, Mika. That was honestly really, really insightful. So while we wait for any questions that people may have, do you want to just talk about if you were to give one advice to anyone who is thinking about applying abroad, wants to apply abroad, want to study abroad, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, maybe I'll reiterate the two things that I mentioned. Challenge yourself, go for it, and hopefully there's a way to bring some of these opportunities back home. For the actual application, just throwing back to when I was going through the application experience, I think immerse yourself in the process. I found that I loved writing the essays, for example, because it was a really great reflection piece for me to write what my story was about and share that with other people. And so use those opportunities to really reflect about what you did in the past, what you're looking to do, and the genuineness of your applications and essays will come through as well.
Super, super love that. So an anonymous attendee asks, how was the application for you and does it run smoothly?
Oh, it's been so long. But my process was, I think it could have run smoother. I'm super glad that camp was there because my mentor and other people in camp were very helpful and guided me through different steps. But I think there's also a lot of research and trying to figure out which schools to apply to that people in the Philippines compared to people in America have less of an advantage of because they don't get to visit the schools, they don't get to talk to people who have entered those schools or any admissions officers. So I think it could have been smoother in that way. And I think there are more opportunities today to have that experience of doing their research and figuring out which schools to be applying to, which at the time just didn't exist for me.
Super, super love it. And then, honestly, same question as this anonymous attendee. Do you have any advice on how to speak as eloquently as you?
Oh, a great question. Okay, I take improv classes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Highly recommend. I think it has a lot of, it's really scary. Again, theme of my speech is jump into the scary things because they make you better. But it's also really fun because you're basically just playing games with each other. I think also doing a lot of these engagements is helpful. I have a side YouTube channel, so I practice a little bit because I get to speak to an audience through speaking in camera and in YouTube. So that helps me practice a little bit. But yeah, I think the theme is practice makes perfect and finding ways to be able to do that in different channels.
Super, super love that. And then, this anonymous attendee got disconnected at some point, but did you decide to come back to the Philippines or stay abroad after schooling? And yeah, and how did you come to that decision?
Yeah. I immediately after school, I'm still based in New York, but I go back and forth and eventually be moving to the Philippines soon. But immediately after college, I stayed abroad. I wanted to make most of some of the visa opportunities, the OPT, if you're gonna be familiar with that, if you study abroad, STEM OPT, etc. And wanted to make most of kind of the different experience that I could take while abroad, while I had those visa opportunities, until finally moving back.
Love it. And then, if you can still remember, what extracurriculars and activities did you engage in during high school?
Yeah, I did. I was part of our dance troupe in Pasay. Um,
Wow,
uh,
okay.
yeah, and then I was also part of the student council. So I was president of our, I guess, school student body come fourth year. And I was part of this kind of social sciences club as well.
Love it. And then, do you have any advice on how to overcome fear?
In general, wow, that's a big question. I think just battling fear head on. Most things are scarier than we think. We built up a lot of fear and anxiety in our heads when in reality it might not be as scary as it actually is.
Love it. And then, was your GPA high or did you academically excel?
I want to say yes. In high school, I was high honors. In college was director's list, had a couple awards.
Wow.
So I worked hard. You should work hard too.
Love it. Okay. Someone also from Pasay, how were you able to balance your extracurriculars and ACADS? Because it feels
Oh,
impossible now.
really, it really truly does. I was intentional about the extracurriculars that I cared most about. So I really love dance, for example. I really love being part of the student body. And that intentionality allowed me to do two things. One was really just focus on the hopefully fewer extracurriculars that I cared more about and ignore the others, basically. And then two is because I genuinely love doing these things. It didn't feel like I was doing work, or I was always very motivated to be doing it. So really choosing and focusing is helpful. Other than that, I didn't sleep a lot. No. I think it was really finding time within the week or even weekend to squeeze some of those things in. Delegating certain tasks to other people while I was within extracurriculars, so that I'm not doing it alone. There's a team behind me. There are other people that I can work with to make these things happen.
Super nice. What are your tips for students who are currently cramming their applications?
Don't cram. No. I at the end of the day, it's like priority, right? Like if you're cramming for these things or end up missing the deadline, then that just shows that you're not prioritizing this experience enough, and maybe it's not as important to you. So really thinking about those priorities for yourself and figuring out how best to, if you really, really want this, then there are other things that you have to pause and put away time from to focus on your applications. And maybe the crux of that is actually figuring out the motivation for it, right? Like find the reasons that you're motivated and the reasons why long-term studying abroad will do something for you. And hopefully that motivates you to not cram for it or not procrastinate actually doing the application.
Love that. Pasay question once again. For Pasay GWA, did you have to convert them to GPA or did you ask the registrar to do so in order to apply to the US? If you still remember.
I think
No worries if you don't.
Yeah, I think the registrar did it.
Okay, got it. Did you take internships while in college, and do you have any tips on that?
Yes, I definitely did. One of the internships that I mentioned is Med Grocer. Another one was one in Silicon Valley already. So I was a designer in this robotics ed tech startup. Tips in internships in college, definitely attempt it. They can be really fun and add to your resume. And that makes your graduation, like post-grad experience for finding jobs much easier. I'd say also if you're trying to find one in tech in Silicon Valley, it's a lot of hustle. It's going to be hard to find these internships because they're very competitive and also dependent. If you're coming from a school that doesn't have a lot of tech, like Wesleyan, then there's just a little bit more hustle that you have to go through. But you can ask me another time. I went through a lot of hurdles to get my internships, but they ended up being very fruitful for me. It just takes a lot of hard work to go through.
Thank you so much for that. And again, if you still remember, what resources did you use to write your essays?
I don't remember. I did lean into my mentor in camp, and I think they also helped me connect with other people who've gone through the process, right? Like getting their essays and seeing what worked, what didn't for specific schools, right? So if you have a target school that you're going to, like Wesleyan, ask me for my essay, which I wrote way back when, or other people who went to that school, because if there's a reason that they were admitted. And so seeing what those examples might look like.
Love it. And then any advice on how to handle being overwhelmed with ACADS and extracurriculars, or just the overwhelming change of environment when you first move abroad to study?
Yeah, my biggest thing that helped me was really finding my tribe. So I hung out with a lot of the international students in school because we had a shared bonding, right? Like we were alone, from away from family, away from familiarity, away from friends. And so we had that bond already and connected immediately from that. I also had my dance tribe, right? So I continued dance in college. And so hung out with them a lot. Had a strong set of extracurriculars that made me really happy, even if the adjustment to a new culture was tough. So finding your tribe, finding the things that you care a lot about, and sticking to that, eventually you'll also find your home with them.
Nice. And then any networking tips for college and for when we enter the workforce?
Yeah, I have so many. I write a lot about this in my blog and my YouTube channel if you want to check those out more specifically. But one powerful tool is sending a cold email or sending cold message, right? So a couple principles around that. Make it brief, make it straight to the point. Tell them why they specifically will be super helpful for your journey. Like, they care about giving back. Make sure that they know why they're doing this for you. And then make a specific ask, right? Like 20 minutes of your time, or can I get your college essay or whatever? Try those things out, especially making it brief. And don't be afraid to send those cold emails.
Okay, perfect. So I think that concludes our Q&A session. Thank you so much, Mika. Everyone, thank you for your active participation, and I hope that our beloved speaker was able to shed light on your curiosities and concerns. But if not, she did share her contact details and her blog if you want to check it out. So definitely feel free to reach out to her if you have any questions, if you'd like to see your essay, anything like that. But yeah, on behalf of CAMP's 2023 facilitation team, I would like to extend our sincerest gratitude and appreciation to you for sharing with us your valuable insights today. We're genuinely really grateful for you accepting our speaker invitation. So everyone, let's give a round of applause for Mika. So I hope that this session really inspired and motivated you, because with that, Pathfinder Trekking to College has officially concluded. If you still have any questions, if you still have anything that is unclear about your study abroad journey, that's totally fine. That's where we all were. So definitely feel free to message or email Camp Philippines, apply for our mentorship program, go to our office hours. And you can also see recordings of this conference in our YouTube channel. So definitely check that out, Camp Philippines. And finally, just know that there are people who really want to help you. There are people who want to support you. There are people who have been in your shoes. We hope that through this conference and through all of our activities, you are able to see that it's really possible to go abroad. It's possible to achieve your dreams. And even if you don't, rejection is redirection, and we're really, really happy for anyone and where they end up. So I hope that this has been really inspiring for you guys. I hope that this has been helpful. Again, we are always open for any questions, any concerns. So email Camp, text us, text any of the speakers who are useful during these sessions, anything at all. Super, super excited for you guys, and thank you so much for coming to our event. So that's it. Next up, we have office hours at 5 p.m. Definitely come if you're interested. And that's all for Pathfinder Trekking to College Camp's 2023 Study Abroad Conference. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. See you. By the way, if you attended all of the sessions, please email Camp with your completed sash and we will give you a prize. So that's really exciting. See you guys. Thanks so much.